Ocarina of Time features Link in his iconic look. Through the adventure, he obtains 2 new outfits, giving us 3 flavors to enjoy. Goron Tunic gives resistance to heat and slows down damage taken from lava floors and spikes. And poison, for some reason. Zora Tunic prevents death by choking underwater. Because there's no downsides to either one, players will often choose their favorite color and only change if necessary. Ocarina of Time Randomizer can randomize the colors of these tunics. While that's not relevant to the fewer Tunic Requirements trick, I don't want to get angry comments for not mentioning it. Speaking of fewer Tunic Requirements, which I'll call FTR for short, it's a trick that may be a bit unclear. The generator gives a good description that makes sense to experienced players, but this video will help players who are still unsure. Not only will you know if you can handle enabling this trick, I hope you'll be confident enough to turn it on for all future seeds. This is Fewer Tunic Requirements Explained. Part of how randomizer logic works is by virtually thinking out a path, and keeping in mind where you can and cannot go while placing items in the world. Seeing as Goron Tunic or Zora Tunic expand how much of the game you can now traverse, FTR gives the shuffler permission to put progression items in some places that may require Goron or Zora Tunic otherwise. The easy example is that it won't require Goron Tunic for entering Fire Temple. It will still require you to have hover boots or hookshot to reach the entrance. There is a trick to skip those by using a pod to push Link to jump to the Bolero Bridge. However, if the randomizer expects you to use that trick, it will logically assume you're wearing Goron Tunic. Near the Fire Temple entrance is this side area with freestandings on 2 platforms depending on Link's age. The child freestandings will obviously never require Goron Tunic whether FTR is on or off. The logic for the adult freestandings on the Pierre platform, from what I can tell, will only require Goron Tunic if the damage multiplier is on 1-hit KO, you can use a fairy, and the only way to get them is by jumping from above. In the Fire Temple, you may be asked to explore the first floor without Goron Tunic. This includes the room before Volvagia, the bottom circle towards the boss key's vanilla location, and the big lava room. And of course the 3 small rooms attached to the big lava room. This room will still logically require that you have any items or tricks necessary to reach it. On the other hand, this trick will never ask you to beat Volvagia or get past the elevator without Goron Tunic. All this is true whether Fire Temple has vanilla or Master Quest layout. Ganon's Castle Fire Trial has silver rupees that can be added to the pool with the Shuffle Silver Rupees option. If FTR is enabled, you'll want to dip into Fire Trial, even if you have to make multiple trips due to low max health. The silver rupee in the pillar will require gold gauntlets, and so will the silver rupee that requires the pillar being moved. That silver rupee's location is the only check in vanilla Fire Trial logic that will not ask you to do it without Goron Tunic. In Master Quest Fire Trial, the only silver rupee check you may be asked to do without Goron Tunic is a silver rupee high in the air. In short, you'll never be asked to pull off the Hell Run of the century. There are some areas where it looks like FTR would maybe affect it. Example, in the Thieves' Hideout kitchen, there's a wonder item in the soup. If wonder items are shuffled, the logic can put a progression item in there under a few circumstances. If 1-hit KO is on, it will logically require Nehru's Love or Goron Tunic. Otherwise, it can place a progression item in there as long as you have the supplies to stun or sneak around the guards. It sounds convoluted, but the takeaway is that FTR has no effect on the logic for this wonder item despite Goron Tunic being involved. Similarly, in Goron City, there is a grotto across the lava pit. It's possible to play Song of Time to spawn a time block, climb it, and get onto the grotto without Goron Tunic. The logic will only consider that possible if the damage multiplier is low enough, or Nehru's Love is obtainable. Alternatively, the logic can require just the Song of Time and Longshot without requiring Goron Tunic, as long as the damage multiplier isn't too high. Like I said, it sounds convoluted, but the main takeaway is that FTR doesn't change anything about how the shuffler handles this area. While we're in the overworld, Zora Tunic would only be required for the freestandings and heart piece at the bottom of Zora's fountain. Turning on FTR removes this requirement. Iron boots will be required for these items either way. Since it does not have a requirement for how much max health you will need to have, the logic is aware that it may ask you to take multiple trips or even have Link choke underwater to obtain all these checks. Gerudo Training Ground has a room with swirling water that the community lovingly calls the toilet room. If silver rupees are shuffled, FTR affects the logic here the same way. You may be asked to grab the items making multiple trips or even have Link choke underwater. FTR affects Water Temple just a bit. Think of it like the Iron Boots and Zora Tunic being tied hand in hand. Anything that requires Iron Boots to check will also require Zora Tunic. However, if you turn FTR, the Zora Tunic requirement will be stripped, leaving only the Iron Boots requirement. The only exception are the checks found under the central pillar. While it's possible to check it without Zora Tunic with enough hearts and or skill, the logic will never actually require you to do it. Skilled players will do it out of convenience, not necessity. There are places where it might seem like Zora Tunic affects the logic, but it doesn't. Zora Tunic will never be required to check the diving heart piece in the Lake Hylia lab. You can dive with gold skill or cleverly take off Iron Boots while hook-shotting the crate. That's another trick, by the way. But while that may use Iron Boots, the logic doesn't require you to have Zora Tunic for it. A few last minor notes. FTR will never require Zora Tunic for collecting the Zora River Red Rupees, going through the Zora River to Lost Woods shortcut, or going through the Water Temple entrance. I hope this helps demystify everything about fewer tunic requirements. This is part of my Overworld Tricks series for Ocarina of Time Randomizer, and I hope you not only will rise to the challenge but join me as I continue to explain every trick in Ocarina of Time Randomizer.